Hey, yo, welcome to Cardmarket Pokemon. You're back with me, Hot Chalk, and in the build-up to Evolving Skies, I thought, let's look at 6 times the sort of Eevee and the Eeveelutions interact in the TCG, because there are some super fun ones and some super competitive ones as well. So let's get involved. Alright, so Eevee had the ability Ascension DNA, and what that would do is when you would evolve the Eevee into any other evolution, it would actually completely erase all the damage, and that's pretty cool. That can come in handy sometimes. Let's say you were a bit slow getting to your evolution or finding it, and it took some damage. You could now just clean that damage away and you're back in the fight with a fresh evolution. I played Jolteon GX quite a few times, and there was quite a few times as well where your Eevee would take some damage before you found a Jolteon, and it was just nice knowing that eventually when you found your Jolteon you could just get rid of those damage markers, damage counters I should say, and get back in the fight with a fresh Jolteon. Not one of the more strongest sort of interactions here, but it is one nonetheless. Next up, you have to Follow My Tail Eevee from Cosmic Eclipse. And this one, if you're playing a sort of Eevee box deck, is actually insane. Especially insane if you get this attack off on your first turn going second. What this essentially does is, you can search your deck for any amount of Eevee or Eevee GXs and just sling them all to your bench. So you can just end the turn with essentially 6 Eevees in play, and then next turn you can just be like, research, evolve, evolve. And it actually combos really nicely with this next mechanic that I'll get into now. So the next sort of mechanic is the cheer mechanic. And what the cheer mechanic was, that all the evolutions in Cosmic Eclipse had this ability. Well, a version of this ability, I should say. Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon. They all did different things. Flareon, for example, meant all the GXs that evolved from Eevee, their attacks do an extra 30 damage. This was pretty cool. So there was like a Jolteon GX that was really efficient. It did 1 for 30 and then a 30 snipe, which with this Flareon would now be a 60 snipe, which could go up to 90 if there's a choice band knocking about somewhere. And you had Headbolt, which now do 1 for 110 normally, but 140 if the Flareon did it. So that's pretty cool. Again, you can just sort of stack it. It was just really cool. And when you stacked it with stuff like the Jolteon, for example, the Jolteon had the speed cheer ability, and the GXs that evolved from Eevee would now require 1 colorless energy less to attack. So let's get back to our Jolteon GX as an example here. This Jolteon GX would now attack for 1 lightning energy for all its attacks, including the GX attack. You could play this with the Flareon as well, knocking off energy there, but honestly, the Jolteon was the best target. But it's actually one other one, and it's the Vaporeon with the Vitality Cheer ability, and that meant all your GX that evolved from Eevee now have a plus 60 HP. So if you had all 3 of these cheer Pokemon outright, and you was attacking with a Jolteon, the Jolteon GX could now attack for 1 energy, there's an extra 30, and had an extra 60 HP for 260 HP total on a 2 prize Pokemon. That's more than tag teams, man. And that's why I really like the cheer sort of archetype. It's just really, really funky, right? So moving into Vivid Voltage, there were 3 evolutions that got printed that all had pretty cool abilities as well. There was a Vaporeon, a Flareon, and a Jolteon. Basically, if the Vaporeon had a memory capsule attached, it would actually turn off all fire abilities in play, both yours and your opponent's. So that's pretty cool, but it actually gets a little bit better, because Jolteon, if it had a memory energy attack, a memory capsule attached, I should say, it would turn off water abilities. So think of stuff like Frostmoth, for example, and Vaporeon could turn off stuff like Ninetales. But then it gets better, because the Flareon, if it had a memory capsule attached, it would actually turn off a lot of grass abilities. You can see what's going on here. Stuff like Rillaboom, for example. And imagine if you was playing a Rillaboom deck and your opponent evolves into Flareon and slings a memory capsule onto it, so your Rillaboom no longer has an ability, you might as well just scoop. And it's going to be super interesting, because like the Jolteon, for example, like I said, turns off water abilities. Moving forward in our format now, and especially in our post-rotation format, the Inteleon lines are looking to be real big power players. And you know what? If you're like already playing Eevee, let's say, I don't think it's terribly outrageous to run 1 or 2 Jolteon with some memory capsules just to turn off all the Intellus. Because you've got like the damage sniping one here, or you've got the Shady Dealings, Drizzile, and then the Shady Dealings Inteleon as well, which both sorts out trainers respectively, because those decks are built with the Inteleon in mind, right? Like they don't play stuff like Crobat because they think, oh, I can just search for trainers when I need them. So a Jolteon would probably take you pretty close to auto-winning those Inteleon matchups, and that's why these awakening ability from Vivid Voltage Eeveelutions are actually pretty gnarly. From Ancient Origins, we have Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon. I'm starting to notice a little theme here, by the way, that creatures seem to like printing these this combination of evolutions with really cool abilities, but these ones were insane. So what they would do, if you had the Flareon in play, it would turn all your stage 1s into fire types. So let's say they were a water type already, and you had Flareon in play, they are now water and fire at the same time, meaning you can hit for 2 different weaknesses at the same time. And obviously, stuff like Metagross back then was really an impactful deck. Being able to just punch through, I should say, is pretty gnarly. But again, because they all evolve off the same Eevee, it's not terribly outrageous to think you could run like one of all of these evolutions. So there's also the Jolteon, the electric effect ability, which means all your stage 1s now have the electric typing as well. That's gnarly. Electric type was really good for hitting stuff like Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza EX, for example. So that was actually sort of a little bit of play. And Juvetal EX as well. And then there was also the Vaporeon, which had the Aqua effect. So you could essentially hit for 4 types at the same time. Let's say you had like an Umbreon out, right? And you had the Vaporeon, the Flareon, and the Jolteon. You're hitting for all those different types at the same time. Like, nothing is safe with these guys from Ancient Origins. And these saw a ton of play. Stuff like Vespiquen and all that good stuff as well. And it's actually a really unique ability. And I think it's actually pretty strong. And I'm not surprised we haven't seen anything like this since, because this was mad. Out of all the sort of ways to change types that I know of, this was definitely the easiest and the most splashable as well. Pretty crazy, the evolutions from Ancient Origins. Right, so there are 2 Eevee cards. One's from Furious Fist and one's from Sun and Moon Base. And these are, without a doubt, the best Eevee interactions, in my opinion. They both have the Energy Eeveelution ability. And what that does, if you attach a basic energy to the Eevee, you can search your deck for a card of that type that evolves from Eevee and slam it into play. So if you attach a Psychic Energy to an Energy Eeveelution Eevee, you can evolve into an Espeon straight from deck, meaning you don't have to sort of find it, which means, this makes you a lot more consistent. But not only that, not only does it make you more consistent, it means you can get around normal evolution rules. So you can put this Eevee down, turn 1, let's say, sling a Psychic Energy on, and then straight away you have a turn 1 Espeon getting ready to do its attacks. That's pretty cool. So it lets you essentially break rules of the game, and that's why it's so good. You can always just spring an evolution up out of nowhere with the Energy Eeveelutions. So not only does it make you more consistent, it means that you start breaking rules of the game. That's pretty gnarly, if you ask me. And that's all the way Eevee does things in the TCG. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for watching, as always, though, and I'll see you all next time.